I need to click the Go Live button.
That would help.
Yep.
Can we get a baguette in the chat? That would help.
Yep.
All right. Hello, everyone. This is Professor Wallach. For those who don't know who I am, I'm the program coordinator of the AGGP program at NHTI, Concord Community College. We're in Concord, New Hampshire. Today we are presenting to you the AGP Direct. Normally we have, which is our show of games, which is our presentation of our student work. It's called AGP Direct because of the pandemic, we've been forced to go completely online. Essentially, we've pulled a Nintendo, and that's why it's called AGP Direct. Today, I've got 5 projects to show you. The first 3 are going to be from my freshman class and their freshman projects, and they've been working just about 6 weeks tops on these projects. So they've been able to do a lot in a very small amount of time. The other 2 projects that you will see in this presentation will be the capstone presentations from my senior classes, and they've had 2 terms to work on these projects. Both of these projects are multiplayer, and you'll see the complexity that they had to deal with because they've gone into that multiplayer setting. So, without ado, let's get to why we're here, the games. The first game that we're going to see is Unstable, and I'll let the team introduce themselves.
Hello, my name is Carlos.
I am Gabe.
And I am Nathan, and this is our project Unstable. In Unstable, you take control of a robot with an experimental power core. Due to the numerous tests on you and the experimental core, your artificial intelligence begins to go haywire, and you breach solitary confinement. Your ultimate goal is to escape, but a plethora of machines stand in the way of you and your freedom. Along the way, your core will become unstable, requiring a stopgap solution of stealing nanomachines to ensure your survival. By stealing these nanomachines, you're able to progress through the facility towards your freedom.
The core game mechanics of our project is first-person oriented gameplay with wall-running capabilities and an ability system tied to the player's health.
When designing the heads-up display, I knew there was quite a bit of information that needed to be conveyed to the player, some of which was necessary, such as the player's health/energy bar, others not as necessary, such as the kill counter. Nonetheless, the HUD shows critical information for the current playthrough. Alongside the HUD, I created the status effect system that allows the player to approach enemies differently with the varying abilities and abilities to apply those status effects. This helped to define the flow of gameplay and add a unique twist of draining health tied to the player's abilities. Quick overview of the HUD. At the top center, you have the health timer and the health bar. Under the health bar to the left and right, you have these mostly transparent boxes. That is your status effects panel. On the left, you have the buffs, and the right, the debuffs. Top left and top right of the screen, you have the overall game stats, such as kills and score. On the bottom left of the screen, you have the radar showing the enemy's position relative to the player. And on the bottom right, you got the current equipped ability with required energy to cast that ability and how many times you can cast that ability in a row. Speaking of abilities, there are 4 total. 2 apply a status effect to enemies, and the other 2 add passive boosts to the player when enabled. The first ability is a Fireball, pretty explanatory. Fireball is a projectile launched from the player dealing burn damage on direct impact and explosive damage to enemies nearby. The second ability is an Area Freeze. When enemies are nearby, the freeze ability will reduce their movement speed, although this effective range is rather short and thus should only be used when surrounded and trying to escape a group of enemies. The third ability is a Siphon. This is a lifeline of sorts. While the ability is active, every successful melee strike will give some amount of energy. However, will drain energy at an increased rate when active. The ability should only be active when necessary. The last ability is an enhancement ability. Similar to Siphon, enhancement drains energy at an increased rate when active, however, not as much as Siphon. While active, enhancement will increase the player's movement speed, jump height, and show the exact positioning of enemies on the radar given they are within range.
Like my grandfather always said, a punch is only as good as the face that connects to it. And in Unstable, you'll encounter a diverse group of enemies with different actions and simple yet characteristic models. The enemies you'll encounter include the Ranger, an automatic cannon on the move, the Boomer, a floating mine that explodes near the player, the Guard, a big beefy bot that holds its position against the player, the Turret, a stationary sentry that shoots on sight, and the Melee, a frantic machine that hunts the player down.
What I worked on is the wall running and player movement. I also worked on the general level design and enemy placement within the level. The level you see in the image here is just a basic blocked out level. It is not meant as a finalized design. It is meant just to help demonstrate the core mechanics of the game. In the area labeled beginning, it is a simple ramp that leads to the first area. In Area 1, there are a few enemies strewn throughout it, and ramps that lead up to that center bridge, and on the bridge it allows you to reach the higher 2 platforms on the walls, which hold a couple of turrets. Once you defeat all the enemies in this room, you can go on to Area 2. Area 2 is split into 2 different levels, the upper and the lower. On the lower level, you have a few enemies down there, and in the center is a pit. If an enemy or the player falls into it, they will die. If you're the player, it will be game over for you. You have to then wall run your way up to the platform, which will allow you to reach the second level. Once you're there, you're met by more enemies and a couple of guards that hold the exit. Once you defeat all of those, you can move on to the end, where we have a simple teleporter, which at the moment just takes you to the level end screen. Now we'll go into a demonstration. Yep. Hold on. For some reason I can't. Oh. Okay. Gonna have to deal with this. All right. Here we have. Oh, sorry. Not here. All right. So jumping right into it. When you first spawn in, it tells you how to start the game. Just press the left mouse button to start. You will then spawn in and be able to move around. And it starts off pretty quickly. My first ability I will show off is the Fireball. On direct impact, it will ignite the enemy on fire and damage them over time. And with an enemy like that, it will cause them to instantly blow up. The next ability is the Siphon. When using this, you'll see I will gain more energy on hit instead of just on kill. The enhance, you can see a noticeable increase in speed and jump height compared to when it is off. I will kill this turret, work my way over to the enemy over here, defeat them. Next is the final guard, and I will freeze them in place for a little bit to allow me to back away, and then use a combination of my abilities to take them out very quickly and move on. Let's see if I can push these guys into the pit to demonstrate the... Oh, as you can see, I died here. Here. Can you not see the application? Oh, that is strange. Please?
We're trying to make sure that the audio is playing.
Alright. Here, if I do restart, can you hear the music now? Alright. Sorry, that was an issue on my end. Discord wasn't showing it properly. Alright. I will run through it now with proper sound. Now you can hear their sound effects actually playing when things explode, and on a hit with these guys, I actually have a sound applied to them. I'll just quickly rush through these. See if I can push these guys into the pit now. Once we reach the end, you'll see updates the best from the previous run. And from here, I can either restart or exit to the main menu.
All right. There were there's some questions from chat. One comment is that the HUD feels like Halo. Someone said not the boomers, they ruin everything. So the first actual, someone also commented this, it feels like the Dark Souls of class projects, which is, that's one way to go about it. That will come up again later today. But the first question in chat was, how difficult was it to implement the wall running mechanics?
Started off very difficult. We were initially used the Unity's character controller component, which is a simple way of implementing movement, but we were dead set on doing a wall running from the beginning, or a wall run mechanic from the beginning, and the character controller just could not do it at all or easily. So I had to convert the player movement to a different basic way of moving, which allowed me to then do the wall running. It's mainly a lot of math and figuring out what's the best forces to be applied to the player, but after that it's pretty simple to figure
out. The next question was, what gave you the idea for the health-based ability mechanics?
I can answer this one. When we got our team together, we were just throwing out ideas, and Gabe decided to put a very lovely meme into chat. And we based that off nanomachines, and we thought how we can get nanomachines to be interesting. So we thought have the player's health decrease, and you'll steal nanomachines from enemies on kill. How we can make it more interesting, abilities. How can we make the abilities interesting, tied to the player's health and all the nanomachines? So the abilities are kind of like a magical machinery of sorts, and that's why they're tied together in a little short story.
One more question. There is, where do you think the game would go from here?
From here, well, one of fully made levels would be nice. But I would like to work on the just expanding the story and the levels. I'd like to see. I think we had talked about doing like an upgrade tree of sorts where your abilities would upgrade or the player itself would have various upgrades.
Wave base was another thing we threw out at first that we had to change.
Like a wave based mode. Let's see. Oh, animations and higher quality details for the enemies and player.
A set art style along with that.
Yeah, in a set art style. One issue we ran into was time constraints and not being able to properly implement like a sword animation for the player or some sort of melee animation for them. Kind of detracts from the quality of the game, but in the future, I'd like to see this added to the game.
All right, thank you guys. Great. Again, such little time, so much you got working. You should be happy with what you've done. Again, polish it up. Again, all of your work you should be considered potential portfolio pieces. It's definitely something. Definitely is interesting. Looks cool.
Thank you.
All right, so we're now going to move to our next team. I need a moment to set up. Hold on, guys. Need you guys to start showing something.
All right, I will start sharing right there. And present. All right.
All right. So the next. So again, we went from like a first-person shooter. We're going in a different direction, with a 2D side-scroller game. Format you've probably seen and play and love, but with an interesting twist. So I'm going to give it to the team.
Title pending, a game in which you fight for glory in a massive arena, facing off against some of the most peculiar contenders one could imagine.
We are the team behind this game.
Jared.
Noah.
Nicole.
We are AGP 131 Ginyu Horse. So the premise behind this game is largely drawing from the popular tales of things like the Rocky series and Mike Tyson's Punch-Out. The story of an up-and-coming underdog with a lot of, guts and ready to make their name in this fighting arena of their choice, going up against a series of increasingly powerful and very unique, quirky opponents that each have their own sort of fighting style and different techniques that you have to work around. We thought that we were very much inspired by the sort of large-scale, highly publicized arena match format of the Real Steel movie, where you have these, giant wacky robots with 4 arms and 3 heads facing off against each other, and all centered around the story of this relatively underwhelming fighter who conquers all the odds and goes on to defeat everybody in their way and attain the title, which is, of course, pending.
When we were going through our concepts, we started off with 2 possible player choices and 3 possible boss designs. In our final layout, we decided upon the swordsman for our primary player, as they were the easiest to implement and were quite fun to concept. For our bosses, we decided on our stocky red friend Bull, whose dream in life is to become the best rapper he can be.
For our gameplay, we are mostly drawing inspiration from 2D action platformer games like Shovel Knight, Mega Man, or Hollow Knight, and with focus on unique boss fights and mechanics, much like Mega Man and Shovel Knight, and the intensity of Hollow Knight's gameplay.
The fundamental gameplay largely draws from those inspirations, where you are dropped into a large battle arena with a boss that has their own unique set of attacks, abilities, and gameplay mechanics that you have to learn over time and master to have a hope of defeating them. It's a relatively simple format, but the intensity of these battles can get pretty high once the bosses start, going through their attack cycles. And we sort of modeled our arena gameplay style and combat. The player's ability set itself draws heavily from Shovel Knight, with a plunging bounce attack that allows you to propel yourself off of the enemy's head multiple times if you land successive bounces, and small, quick slashing attacks to the side and above you in order to maneuver around and hit things in all directions.
And here's what everyone on the team worked on. I primarily worked on the code for the projectiles, the falling debris, the music notes. For the art side, I helped concept player models and the background settings alongside the title card. Both Jared and myself worked on searching for sound effects as well as creating a few of our own. That's all on my end.
I worked on the boss concept design and animation, so the animations you'll see in game of the player and the boss itself. I also concepted the boss attack patterns and programmed the simple AI selection. I refined the player attacks so they're less convoluted and more easy to pick up. I assisted Noah with the animation implementation, so the animations I created were implemented with the help of Noah. Object graphics and animation, so those are the projectiles that Bull spawns when he does his specific attacks, and the gameplay interface graphics, which we'll see in the UI being the health bars.
And I primarily worked on the player control design, so moving around, attacking, all of that good stuff on the coding end. I also worked on the gameplay design and implementation, which is also primarily coding related, with keeping track of the game state, whether or not a player has won, who wins, health things, all that stuff. I also worked on the boss attack scripting, so making sure that when Jared's AI tells the boss to jump, the boss will actually jump. I also implemented the animations that Jared drew with a bit of his help to make sure that they're all working. And you can see an example of that on the slide on the right with the state machine, or the animation states and their transitions and whatnot. I also worked on implementing the gameplay interface, so giving functionality to all of Jared's very pretty drawings that he did for the UI, making sure that the player's health goes down when they get hit, things like that. I also worked on menu scripting, which is things like the main menu, pause menu, returning, all that functionality. And I also worked on audio implementation, so taking the files that the other two found for me and making sure that they play at the correct times for the correct durations, all that good stuff.
Now let's get ready to rumble!
We would just like to say a quick memoriam to Nicole's brother for falling off a couch in a bed in the pursuit of making sound effects for Bull, only for the audio to be left unused. He will forever be remembered. Right. Change windows. Start the game. And change windows.
And again, we're taking questions in chat, so if you've got questions, now's the time to put them in.
So here we have our main menu. We have a credit section, quick tutorial, which just sort of explains the basic mechanics of the game, how to move, how to attack, your special plunging attack move, which will do more damage with each successive bounce, a quick bit of information about who you are and what you're doing, and then a warning that you are relatively fragile compared to your hardy opponents, so you need to be very careful not to take hits. And once you're ready to begin your quest for greatness, you can enter the ring and face off against Bull, who enters with a bit of a dramatic entrance. As you can see, he's quite the musically inclined fellow, using his powerful voice to destroy the player. And as you can see, I've already taken a hit. So we see that we can destroy his music notes with attacks. So if you're ever faced with a particularly harrowing onslaught, you can always try and swipe them out of the air. Plus be careful to dodge his falling debris attacks, as those can be quite deadly if not avoided. And dodging his bull's charge. And we'll now see that his previous 1-2-3 attack pattern has been changed up, because he's below half health and has entered his rage state, where his attack patterns get randomized to make it a bit more difficult to predict what he's going to do. And I'll see he's almost down. So we just got to make sure that we have the right time to go in. He's going for a charge attack. And now we have vanquished him. And you'll be given a score and a letter grade based on how quickly you defeat the opponent and how much health you have remaining. And you have now begun your journey and are well on your way to becoming a prize fighter and winning that title, which is still pending.
So, questions from chat right now. So there's first question in chat is, does Bull take damage at the end of a charge?
Yes, he does. He smacks into the wall and takes a little bit of damage.
Does Bull take damage from the notes and the falling debris as well?
He takes damage from the falling debris, but not the notes.
Question
it's
is
also a very small amount of damage.
Gotcha. The sprites look really good. Are they original to this project?
Yes, I have made all of the character sprites and UI sprites for this game.
Question for the team: what part of the project did you have the most fun with?
I think the initial conceptualization phase is probably the most fun, because we had a lot of, even though it was like big talk for what we had, it was a lot of fun, like conceptualizing like what each of the characters would be like and how they would attack.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. We had a lot of fun ideas, and it was really great to get to sort of sketch out all of our ideas for the characters.
What was the most challenging part of the development is the next question we have.
I can only speak for myself, but since I handle most of the coding...
Yeah, let's have each team member answer this question.
Yeah, I would definitely say for me, it was probably... It would probably have to be making sure that Bull's AI functioned properly with all of his attacks. I had a lot of problems with he would faceplant onto the ground, and then he wouldn't get up before he started his other attacks. So you'd see him sliding and jumping around while still on his face, and that presented a few problems. It was mostly just getting all of the pieces to kind of work cohesively together, because we had a lot of moving parts, and they all worked fine individually, but it was sort of bringing them all together to make a cohesive and refined piece that probably gave me the most trouble.
Next question is, did your group make the music?
Go to
No.
the credits section so you can see
Oh,
all
yeah.
the music is credited right here.
So essentially, they went to filmmusic.io. For those of you who know Incomtech and Kevin McLeod, this is the new website where his work has kind of gone to. Pretty much, it's his work is there as well as other people's work now. So, he also some of your sound effects were created by were created using from assets from freesound.org, which is another royalty site, and they use sfxr.me to create some sound effects as well.
Yeah, so the player hit noises, Bull's dashing sound, and the sounds of the debris projectiles, like the little pieces of concrete that fall when those crash to the ground. We made all those sounds using sfxr.me. It's a very useful website. Highly recommend it.
Finally, the last question we've got is why did you guys opt to go with Bull as the boss instead of the creepy clown or the robot concept?
Bull was like the first boss, like in order. Those bosses were actually listed in order there. Bull was supposed to be like the sort of first one you fight. Like, and it's a good introduction to what the game is like, and it's relatively easy compared to what we had planned for those two. So it felt only like a natural fit to use Bull first because we all liked Bull, and Bull was first in the order. So
Yeah, sort of like a good tutorial boss, so to speak, because his mechanics are pretty simple, and he's good for learning the ropes of the game and how your attacks function and all that.
The very last question, it's actually the first question was put in the chat, was basically, so at what point is Macho Man Randy Savage going to run in and start elbow dropping people in that arena with the bosses? I'm assuming that's DLC, gentlemen.
Yeah, that's we're going to implement that as a $5 horse armor DLC where you unlock the Randy Savage.
Where you have to fight the boss and Macho Man at the same time.
Yep. Macho Man fights you and the boss. He's sort of like a wild third party. He just sort of body slams anybody who gets in his way.
All right, thank you, team. Again, excellent art style. I've been watching you develop. Definitely, as things came together, it was really fun to watch as it built up. Good work. Again, great work. Again, like I said before, you're going to have portfolios. This is definitely something to put in your portfolio.
It was a lot of fun to work on.
All right. Now, time to go to our last freshman team.
All right.
So, we're still staying with the 2D platformer, but we're going in a different direction. Something more brawlish. But get your shoes, get your guns. It's going to be some fun. All right, let me see. If you guys can set up.
So here we have
Hold on a sec.
Guns and Shoes.
Hold on a sec. All right. Here you go.
All right, so I'm Harrison, and this is Guns and Shoes. I worked on the levels and the game loop, lives, respawn, that stuff.
I'm Kai. I did most of the art, the menu system, and a lot of miscellaneous fixes.
And my name's Ruben, and I worked on the character controller and the Guns and Shoes.
So Guns and Shoes is a two-player platforming fighting game where you have a kick and a shoot as the two main moves. You're able to switch between guns and shoes, which have different mechanics, and last person alive wins.
Our gameplay is very inspired by Smash Bros. When the HP hits 0, the player loses a life. If they lose all their lives, they die. It's game over.
We currently have 4 guns that all inherit from a generic gun class. There's a pistol that has a single shot, the low fire delay. Rifle fires 2 shots really quickly. Shotgun has spread, and Uzi has rapid fire. The guns all do a small amount of damage to the opponent and apply a very small amount of knockback. And then the shoes, we currently have 3 different kinds of shoes. They all have kind of different kick abilities. The most basic one is just a single kick with a decent knockback. But then there's also one that sends you lunging forward, and we have one that has 2 kicks with slightly lower knockback. The shoes don't do any damage, but they do send the opponent flying.
Players themselves are inspired by the Madness style, and to emulate that, we made each of the sprite bits of them separate from each other, and they are animated in Unity itself.
So now we can present the game. Let me get that booted up. So I'll be presenting the game with my brother. He'll be the player 1, and I'm player 2. So before we actually fight, I'll demonstrate the stuff. Right here, I'm using the pistol with the basic shoes, so I can shoot with the right trigger button. I'm on controller. And I kick with the left trigger. I'll knock him off. See, it sends him flying. So if I go back up to him, I switch weapons. So over here, I have the double kick shoes, which will kick twice. And I just hit him with the first. It's lower knockback than the sneakers, as you saw. If I switch to the bunny shoes, I can lunge forward when I kick, and more so when I'm moving faster. Then if I switch weapons, it's the rifle with 2 shots, and you'll see that deals more damage. I have the shotgun right here. I shoot a spread of shots, or I can use the Uzi, which if I hold down the button, it rapidly fires. And this one, because it fires more, it'll deal more knockback. Alright, so now that I've demonstrated everything, I'm gonna fight my brother in an actual fight. So we'll be going to the second stage, and we will fight to the death. And I won.
So questions in chat so far. First one is why would you use anything but the Uzi?
So even though the Uzi is fast and has more knockback compared to the wrist, it deals only 1 damage per shot. So if you're getting close to your opponent, you can unload the shotgun to deal full 18 damage in 1 shot. Or if you want to stay out of range, the rifle does 7 damage a hit anyway. So you'll be dealing damage a lot faster.
Who did your audio?
We actually got the audio off of some websites, so we don't have the credits page. We don't have a credits page, but if I bring up the little document we had, we have the music right here.
The next question is, how did you come up with the concept for the base combat?
We knew we
So-
wanted to have guns and then shoes that you could switch in between to have like kind of customizable characters and like play styles. And so the guns and then the shoes were kind of just the guns, the kicking slid in with the shoes.
Next question is, what are your plans for expansion for the future?
Well, definitely more stages, and if we felt like it, we could go ahead and like allow you to customize the lives and HP, or make it so that you have a loadout system where you can only choose a set of weapons to go into fights with.
Next question is, what are some of the things you learned during this project you'll remember for future projects?
I don't know about my partners, but personally, I learned to keep my code more clean and not let it get all messy from the very start, because that way you don't have to go back and clean it up later.
I can say that, well, it's been shown to us the entire term, but this project definitely solidified the fact that using inherited classes is the way to go when you have similar stuff happening.
Kai, do you have anything to add here?
I don't think so.
Okay. We have a comment of "Sweet Soul of Mine" by Guns and Shoes. Couple other Super Smash Brothers Miraga.
The most difficult part for me was getting the shoes to switch back and forth because there was like a lot of moving parts and it really needs to communicate with the rest of the character script. So like there was just a lot. I had to write a whole function just so that they could communicate between each other and know which parts were which.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen. All right. So with that, we've now come to the end of my three freshman projects. Again, I want to stress that they've had like top 6 weeks to work on this project. They had a little bit of concept time, but in terms of actual development, it's been honestly about 6 weeks of straight work. Keep in mind that this is not the only class that they've had. Several of them were taking an animation and modeling course with using Blender. They were also most of them were taking data structures. The normal load includes an English communications course, a math course, and sometimes a science course. So the fact that they were able to get as much as you can see what they have here. I mean, they really put all of the teams really, lean and mean, pedal to the metal, and got what they were able to get done. And you can see, you can see that each team had more on the table that they wanted to do, but couldn't. So, a round of applause for all of them. Again, great work for each of the teams. Each of these are in terms of the polish that you were able to do. This is probably one of the strongest classes in terms of polish. In terms of the applications, the games that you guys showed today. So, big round of applause for all of you. All right, so we now move on to our senior capstones. And before we begin, I want to mention that both capstones are multiplayer games, and so they're multi-machine multiplayer games. So in the past, we've done couch multiplayer. This year, we learned a framework called MLAPI, and the first team will actually get into a better description of what it is. Hold on a sec. I need to get pop out the window and. So, with further ado, I give We're All Going to Jail into Astro's Jail.
Yay!
All right. Well, actually, start the slide. Welcome to our capstone. It is Astrocell, the team that made it. We'll introduce ourselves. Start with you, Zach.
I'm Zach Spitzer. I was the project lead and a programmer.
Hi, I'm Jared. I was the lead programmer for this.
Hi, my name is Ryan Black. I did the film art and map design.
Hi, my name is Jimmy Rager. I did the art and the sound direction.
My name is Matt. I did the game design and production.
Zach?
Have you switched the sides? Oh, sorry. Astrocell is a multiplayer puzzle escape game where you play as a prisoner and guard in an intergalactic prison. You and your fellow cellmates must escape your cells and sneak around the prison, working towards grand escape. You must complete tasks and find items that will aid in your escape while avoiding prison guards. If you're a guard, you can search prisoners with no contraband or contraband. If you find them, they are forced to back into their prison. If you fail in finding contraband, you must stop and fix your artificial intelligence. You must work together as a team to keep those pesky prisoners in prison or break out of your astral cell.
So, as Wallach mentioned, we made multiplayer games. So the first thing to talk about would be our networking solution. So MLAPI is a relatively new networking solution being developed currently. We actually were working on it, using it, and then it was actually picked up by Unity as an official networking solution that they support. So Unity's or MLAPI's definition of itself is that Unity MLAPI is a high-level networking library built for the Unity game engine to abstract networking. This allows developers to focus on the game rather than low-level protocols and networking frameworks. So the good aspects of MLAPI would be that it comes with a lot of baseline components for handling things that any game is going to have. So like network transforms would handle making sure that when I move on my screen, it moves on somebody else's screen. So we don't have to actually code that. We can just put that on and it'll just work. This also includes things like network animators and network scene managers, which do as they sound. Then it also comes with very easy server-client hierarchy to differentiate the two through the use of labeling methods as client RPCs or server RPCs. And then this also allows easy code execution through these said client RPCs and server RPCs. It also has a very active community and developer team because it's currently being developed. They have a Discord that we were using a lot, getting help from the developers whenever we had questions. And obviously a nice aspect is that it's officially owned by Unity, which means it'll have a lot of backing and support, and development will stay. Though, this doesn't mean it didn't have challenges. The challenge of MLAPI is because it's in development, it's very early, and it's currently sitting at version 0.1. And due to this early development, documentation and error handling for it can kind of fall short, and the errors cannot be very clear, and then the documentation can sometimes be lacking. Luckily, though, because of the Discord, whenever we had questions, we could just go there and ask the guy who literally made it. Also, our whole team is very new to MLAPI since we hadn't really made any multiplayer games. Luckily, my team members were taking the networking class, so they had some experience, but for me, I was incredibly new to it. MLAPI presented some challenges when sending data over a network. So you have to serialize data before you can send it over. The issue comes when you have your own data types that you've created, so your own classes. You can create serialization for them, but sometimes a class is just so big that the amount of data to send is just unrealistic and would slow down the network a lot. So we had to create solutions for this. So the solutions we created was, instead of sending like our data class for our items in the game, we could create a list that everybody keeps track of on their own that has indexes. And instead we just send you a number over the network, and then your client can figure out what item we were talking. Another big issue is there's no baseline peer-to-peer option yet, meaning you can't just connect to somebody. You have to have a server or like port forward. And then the solutions for getting around this, which is a relay server or a NAT puncher, which is made by the MLAPI creator, is actually not officially supported by Unity. They only took the main project, which means the development for those is kind of slowed. So one challenge we ran into is that the relay, they updated MLAPI to version 0.1, but the relay didn't get updated. So we had to talk to the creator, and he actually, thankfully, updated for us to get it working.
So the most important mechanic in our game is our item system. Everything revolves around this. Creating items and containers for players to interact with over the network is the foundation of our game. All of our items are scriptable objects. This allowed us to create item definitions and have more flexibility with the items themselves. To facilitate our interaction between containers and players, we have all interactable objects inherit from a map interactable script. This allowed us to define states of use over the server and translate changes of container content, as well as make all of the usable objects in the scene that players need to interact with work off the same system. This was necessary to produce any result with MLAPI. Crafting provides players items that otherwise could not be obtained from stashes. Prisoners need to navigate the map collecting items to create items for sabotages and those needed to win. Sabotages are prisoner mechanics that hinder the guards to distract them while prisoners are trying to escape. We currently have one sabotage in our game implemented, which would be a reactor meltdown. As for win conditions, we have one win condition in our game where prisoners have to break into the armory and take over the ship. The guards win if they cannot do this within a certain time period.
So the map interactables are also a large thing, and as actually one of the other projects mentioned, hierarchy, creating inheritance is very good. So all of our interactables actually inherit from one base script, known as the map interactable, and this will handle basically taking the input for us, so we don't have to worry about that when making new objects, and we can just handle overriding one of the methods in it to add the functionality. So when you interact with, what do we want it to do? So in our game, we have vents and elevators, and luckily for us, these use the same script. It's just a repurposed vent script for the elevators, and these will allow you to travel across the map. And it's also even easier because, as we stated even earlier, the network transform. I don't have to tell the server to move you on other people's screen, because if I just move you on your client, the network transform with MLAPI will do that for me. There was item vents, which you could put an item into and then have that transfer to another spot in the map. And then there's the doors, which are actually on the cells. And these also use another MLAPI component called the network animator. So instead of having to do code to move the actual game object, we can just have an animation that moves the door, and it'll just open it, hold it open, and then close it. And this works with one line of code using the MLAPI network animator.
One of the main mechanics of our game from the guard perspective is being able to search prisoners. So guards can go up to prisoners and search their inventory for a contraband item. When a guard searches a prisoner, both the player's movement is locked, and the guard can then see the prisoner's inventory. They cannot see what the item is, but they can see how many items they have. The guard can either choose to guess for a contraband item or quit out. If the guard guesses right and finds a contraband item, the prisoner is sent back to their cell, and all of their items are sent back to their starting locations. If the prisoner is in the cell because of this, they cannot leave for a certain period of time. They can't interact with the door unless another prisoner comes up and opens the door for them, in which they can get out a little bit sooner. If a guard guesses wrong, they're stuck. The prisoner can walk away free, and the guard has to fix their UI, and they're stuck for a certain period of time. This kind of leads to a fun game of cat and mouse, where a prisoner can taunt guards by going up to a crafting station, which would normally house, or you would make contraband items, so they could have no contraband items, and you're just wasting your time. But this also means that the guards can kind of just hold you there for a little while, and then chicken out.
One of the first things we ended up doing was designing the map. Dark Star Penitentiary, or Space Turtle if you listen to the level design document, is a circular map based around the brig as its hub. From there, each room was designed on with a theme and style and placed around the brig as the center of the map. Some of these are pretty reasonable for a prison setting, such as a cafeteria or morgue, while some are definitely lean more into the sci-fi elements of the setting, such as asteroid mining or a hangar. From here, I worked with the group to decide things like additional rooms or pathways around the map, such as the vents that can take you from the warden's office to the escape pod room. After that, we did something kind of interesting. We created a prototype of the game in Tabletop Simulator. We effectively ran the game as a board game, and this allowed us to refine the core gameplay, so stuff like crafting and even stuff for the guards to do were figured out during this prototype phase. And after all this, I got to work creating the map by working on a tile set.
So I was tasked with blocking out the map and the interior design of all the rooms. I blocked out the map using Pro Builder, an easy-to-use snapping tool that allows me to take each individual tile and snap it to a grid to set all the tiles next to each other perfectly without clipping into one another. I also had to create unique models and materials for blocking out the jail cells and the shield generators throughout the map. For the game design, I had to lay out the details for every room in a strategic way that doesn't interrupt player flow and gave advantages for both the guards and the players and the prisoners in different situations. With our game being multiplayer, there were a lot of social aspects involved with the game design that I had to keep into consideration while detailing the rooms.
I was tasked with the creation process for the actual player characters, which actually proved to be quite a challenge for me. I designed, modeled, textured, and animated both the guard and prisoner player models. Each character went through several concept phases before coming to their final forms, as you can see in the slide. I went with a chibi-style body type for the prisoner, and the guard was scaled based on that, using a model wheel build as a base. Of the two characters, the guard was the most complex animation rig. I simulated a hydraulic mechanical claw system for the guard's left hand, as you can see. All of the modeling plus rigging and the animation was done in Blender, and the texturing was done using a combination of both Krita and GIMP.
As for the elements of the map, between the tile sets, the individual objects placed around the maps, and some of the items that were used for renders, 87 models were created and textured for just this one map. This varies from like items that appeared in multiple rooms, such as boxes or trash cans, to items that are pretty much solely in one room, such as the reactor or the shuttles in the hangar. A lot of work went into this between texturing and just trying to like work with my team to decide how we want certain things to look. Even after the modeling phase was complete, I ended up creating a few extra models to sort of help out with certain aspects of the game. For example, the signs that can be located around the map and tell you what rooms you're in. A lot of work went into this, but I'm pretty proud of how it came out.
And now for some gameplay.
Yeah, I'm gonna swap the application. Is it sharing now? Should be good.
We can just join up on Jared.
Yep. So as you can see, when you join into the game, it gives you a default name, and you can actually set your name when you get in using this little text input. And you can also pick the team you're going to be on. So for this demonstration, we're just going to have 2 guards and 3 prisoners. Everyone ready?
Ready.
I'm ready.
So when you get into the game, you spawn inside of the prisoner cell. In the top right, we have a timer set for when the guards will win, which is when their backup arrives. And then as a prisoner, you have your objectives. So you have to acquire 3 items to be able to win the game for the armory takeover win. So you need a severed finger, a guard key card, and a locker code. 2 of these are crafted items, and 1 you have to find in the map. So this is when you will now disperse as the team of prisoners looking for these items and trying to create a strategy in which you can get the items without the guards finding the contraband on you and confiscating it. The map is designed with stashes basically in multiple parts of the map that have different items. So as a player, you don't really know where things are for your first couple playthroughs, but the idea is that as you play, you learn the map, so you learn how to play, with strategies. You know where items are, so you know what you're looking for. So what we'll do here is I will go show an example of crafting an item. So actually I can show an example of the vent right now. So you can vent through the different parts of the map. This is actually exactly where I wanted to end up. So for the first item, I'll be grabbing 2 soap bars and crawling back through. Vents are on a 30-second cooldown, and you can go from one side to the other. Like, you can go back and forth, but you can only do that once before you'll notice the cooldown. So you'll have to use that to your advantage, and you'll have to time it better. So you have 30 seconds, so you don't want to waste that. then the next item for this will be sheets. And it probably sounds kind of confusing as to what item I might be crafting. It wasn't my idea. I'll let Zach talk about it once I craft it, and he can talk about his thought process of this idea and how it came to him. So the red crates are crafting tables. So you can just come up and it opens an interface for your inventory, and you can select from a list of items what to craft. So these are soap nunchucks. Zach, would you like to explain where you got this idea from?
It was a fever dream. No, so soap nunchucks is from an older, really bizarre movie. I don't know how else to describe it. It's from a prison movie. If you know, you know. It's the best way I can put it.
And so we have the soap nunchucks, which craft into another item known as what did you call them? The taser one?
Let me go check a crafting station. I believe they're called the soapy taser chucks, if I'm not mistaken.
Zach, who was the lead actor in the film that you were referencing?
That is a great question. I don't know the name off the top of my head. I cannot think. Also, it would appear that NHTI has decided that I should
NHTI may have died. So as I said, there's issues. So the relay is a little unreliable sometimes.
Yeah, I have desynced.
Yeah, I think we.
I think I have.
So have
too.
I. Yes.
Let me see if the NHTI thing may have improved our connections.
While we have a moment.
Let's do a quick restart, and then we'll show off the win conditions because there's animations that go with them, and we will show those off. I'll just restart my game. We do have a backup, as any good dev has. We have a dev room. We're not telling you where it is.
It's a secret.
So, let me just share my screen again.
Yeah, I've never played as a guard before. How do I search people?
You hit Q.
Q.
Okay, thank you.
But, so Zach, missing? Oh, Jamie.
Yeah, I'm here. Coming.
Oh, there
I'm
we are.
coming.
Yeah, I'll go to the secret room.
Yeah, you go get the items for the win condition.
I'm in. Go for it.
Okay. Alright.
So-
Don't go near the room.
One comment
I won't
from
see how I get there.
one comment from chat is that Taser Chucks is an amazing name.
I'm so glad that you guys approve.
Big Stan, was it that the film?
Yeah, I think that's it.
Yep.
Hey,
They-
Jared. Oh, look at.
Yeah.
There's that Jamie was charged with 3D printing Battle Mace 40 million figures. Duration of sentence, immediate murder.
I think we have different signs.
Probably, yeah.
Mine says Zach ate 413 chicken nuggets.
Oh, the
And his
personal edition of
sentence is
mine.
duration, I don't know. Give
Alright,
it a week.
I have the items.
Alright, so we will now head up to the top floor where the armory is for the thing, for the win condition. So, Zach will then put the items into the door, which will initiate the win condition, which plays an animation. This animation doesn't have sound. But every win condition has a animation that goes with it that will play. And then you'll get the message saying how they won
Yay.
and who won. As the host, I can hit return to menu, which will bring everyone else back to the menu, and then you can hop back into another lobby.
Or you rejoin menu?
Just join. We'll just show off the guard searching and showing that sending people back.
Okay.
Got it.
So if anything, I really only need one of you to join, just to be a guard.
We can't join you.
Okay, so the MLAPI still... There is a slight bug with the MLAPI disconnecting, where it can sometimes ruin your ability to reconnect. MLAPI, very finicky.
That is
Has
actually a
perks and it has its
known.
downsides.
That's actually a known issue in the Unity's example project.
Good to know.
Do you want to be the...
No, you can
I
just be the guard. It's fine.
Yeah, that's fine.
The UI, I mean, they saw a picture of the UI in the presentation. It's nothing special.
That's fair.
So, I will go grab What's a contraband item that you know of?
Or
In the cafeteria, the laser pizza cutter.
Oh yeah, I'll go grab that.
we have a laser pizza here.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me share my screen.
Oh.
So the guard is a first-person perspective. This gives the prisoner just a little bit of a spatial awareness advantage. So I'll run up to Jared and search him. So
when he's searching me, I can't move anymore.
Only problem is, for some reason, that's a fun little bug. I have to sneak my way into this.
Okay, no, it's not showing up.
Yeah, that's okay. So I can't see what his items are, but I can see that he has one. I know this is contraband, so he's gonna get teleported back. I guess, right? So his item's back in that chest, and he is now locked in here, and he can't leave.
And so when you get locked in, you can't open the cell door anymore for a set amount of time. But you can have a fellow prisoner come by and open the door for you.
I'm opening the doors.
So this leaves it up to either your fellow prisoners don't like you and they leave you there for the set amount of time, or the teamwork aspect comes in and somebody comes to get you. But this helps the guards because it pulls that prisoner away from whatever they were trying to do. And so that is our game. There is a nuclear sabotage that I'd like to show, but actually it's not working because I forgot one component, but we didn't have enough time to rebuild, which has another animation with it. Does the same thing as like the armory where it'll, somebody goes up. The sabotage is a sabotage, so it's not intended to be a win condition, but it's like the game Among Us has a sabotage in it with a nuclear reactor in there. And there's a set timer where the guards have to go and fix it within a set amount of time. If they don't fix it fast enough, it's an instant win for the prisoners. The idea with this is that it's not necessarily meant to always be used to win. It'd be very hard to get this off. But what it does do is it distracts the guards so that they have to go and respond to this one thing. And if they don't, well, they get punished. So they have to have good communication. So that is our game. I would show also the guard backup arriving, but that's going to take 10 minutes for that timer to go down. There is another animation with that, which is just a panning shot of the prisoner stuck in the cells. So this is our project.
Yay!
Very ambitious. We got a lot of ideas for this project, not all of which could make it in time, but if we were to continue working on it, we would see ourselves, first off, getting the sabotages working and then adding even more sabotages. There's many that didn't actually make it in due to time constraints. So we wanted to have an elevator sabotage where you could turn the elevators off and then the guards would have to fix that. Obviously the nuclear sabotage, if it was working, it would flash the lights red over the map with a timer at the top telling the guards they need to go fix it. There was going to be a light sabotage where you could sabotage the lights in a room to turn them off. And prisoners actually have a flashlight equipped to them that they can use that was meant for dark rooms. That is still in the game. And then obviously adding just more content. There'd be more features for the guards, more things for them to do. There was supposed to be guards, sabotages for sabotaging the guards themselves. So there's a taser item in the game that was meant to be used to stun a guard. But that, obviously time constraints with that. A lot of our time got hung up on MLAPI due to its new nature and getting ourselves accustomed to it.
All right, so let's get some questions from the chat. The first one is, how difficult was it able to assign different roles to the guards and players?
So it wasn't too hard. We had to figure out basically when we were going to handle all this. So when you're at the main menu lobby, you do actually have like a game object that you own that you just can't see. Then when we start the game, we run methods on your controller that controls your character, which is the invisible object you own, to actually instantiate yourself into the game. This was happening when we scene swap. There's a delegate to run a method when when the scene finishes swapping, that we then use that to call that instantiation method. And then so at the main menu before that runs, you assign the enums, then it runs that, and then that method will use those enums to figure out what you're going to be. whether it's a guard or a prisoner.
The next question, Zach, this is probably going to be going to you. How hard was it to network the item system in the containers?
It was a lot. It took us a while to figure out the best way to go about it. Eventually, as Jared had said, we ended up making it to where there's a global list of all of the items, and they all have an index. And so the network will send over this int, and it then goes and the client finds from that list of global items what item they should be getting. Getting it to translate over the server with the containers themselves, that was kind of its own ordeal, and there's really no great way to explain it. Jared, you might know a better way to explain it.
Essentially, the clients actually don't. The clients are unreliable. So the way we went with the networking is the server's always right. Whatever the server thinks is happening, that is what is happening. So your client might think there's certain items in a chest, but we don't care about that. The moment you go to open a chest, we ask the server what the server thinks is in the chest, and then that is the items that will be displayed for you. So we don't bother about constantly keeping your containers updated, because that would take, you'd constantly be sending information over the network, because then we can just have it, when you go to interact it, that is when you need the information. So that's how we solve the containers.
Yeah, I know that I've worked with you guys on this, and part of the issue was that the biggest issue with MLPI at the moment when we implemented this was that sending anything that wasn't already pre-baked into the framework, the MLPI framework, like custom classes, was pretty much a no-go without a lot of extra work, and so that's where we came up with, let's just send it, put every item into a big list and just send its index as an IDE to identify it. Let me see. What is the next question? Question for the modelers. Since there's a lot going on in the game scene, did you need to focus on polygon counts and such for performance?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I mean, for some of the world objects, you don't really need a whole lot of polygons. Like, most of the boxes are just like, probably like 32 or something faces. Because realistically, all you need is like whatever you need for the box is just like, a square with like a bit extra on it. And like, you generally want to keep the polygons down for certain objects. I remember I remember seeing that I was going to smooth out some objects, but then I realized they would take up a lot more polygons. Like, I think I had a water bottle or something, or a soda bottle, that was like 180 or so faces, but when I smoothed it, it went up to thousands. So I was like, I'm worried that having too many of these is just going to cause the game to lag. Although I do remember that something that did lag game out a lot was lighting at one point.
You can ask Matt about that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Some performance issues with lighting. We tried baking the lighting through Unity's rendering, but it wasn't the greatest, so we just kind of had to.
How long?
stick
First
with
off, Matt,
the-
how long did it take to render to?
Oh, it took
Or
like
Jamie?
It took Jamie like, how long did it say? 8 hours or so.
Give or take, but that was also on my processor. When I changed my graphics card, yeah,
Yeah.
it was ridiculous.
Processor?
So
I knew your 38. We got like a 3080. I knew that was like 8 hours for that. I was like, what?
No, that was before I switched to graphics card.
Yeah.
With the 3070 RTX, forget about it. Night and day difference. But still, it's obnoxious either way.
Yeah, so for the lighting, we just ended up using the real-time rendering in Unity with point lights. At first, I put way too many point lights per light, which caused a lot of performance issues with frame rate. So we just narrowed that down to 1 point light per light and adjusted the range and intensity to fit the game and give it good lighting. But if we had a machine dedicated just for rendering lighting that could run for 8 hours and not get so hot that it feels like it might explode, then that would be nice. But
if we had like a render farm like they have for like animation studios,
yeah,
maybe.
Yeah, and back to the modeling point real quick. for me, it was especially a balancing act trying to get the polygon counts down to a low enough level to where it wouldn't lag with the animation and overall the performance. Because the characters, I had to bounce around between a few concepts. For example, I contemplated actually adding actual physical eyes to the guard model, anything like that, but it ultimately just resulted in me just drawing the actual face itself like that and did it that way, which saved performance. But what can you do? With so many models in the scene, you have to compensate.
Especially because we didn't have any method of culling, unless it was just Unity's like natural culling of objects out of sight.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. The last question, basically, is there anything you'd do differently if you were to start over?
So obviously with the time constraint, you start off making sure your code's really, really neat. It's well structured. It's very modular. And as you start running out of time, you just start throwing that out the window, and you got to get it down. You got to get it working. So if we were to go back through, I'd certainly clean up a lot of things to inherit from each other. There's definitely a couple spots where we have pretty much duplicate code, just slightly altered. So I'd like to condense that into one script that they inherit from, and then just branch out. And then obviously things that we changed were just all the stuff that had to be cut because we ran out of time. Sounds, we don't have a lot of sounds. My one main thing I really wanted to do, just because it's a fun mechanic, is I wanted to have an intercom system that you could go to a specific room, activate it, and then you'd have an intercom that would broadcast over the whole map where you could talk using voice over IP. Because I've played games with that where it's just very funny. Just the things people say, it just creates you just mind your own business, and then suddenly someone's in your ear over an intercom. So it would just create very fun stuff. And then we also had to cut out. We wanted to add hats as a customizable thing for your character, but due to time constraints, we just couldn't get to that in time.
We also had to cut another playable character called the Warden. So he would have been on the guard side, where he had access to cameras throughout the prison, and then he would have a sabotage that only he could resolve, where you would cut the cameras off, and he would have to go fix it himself. We had to cut him out, and we also wanted to implement like soda effects and traps, so the guards could use traps to kind of keep the prisoners in bay, so they had their own type of player interaction as well as the searches. And then the sodas would be like a crafted item for the prisoners that they could use that would give them like a small little power up, like either like an increased movement speed for a short period of time, or like a teleport or something super simple. But just because of time constraints, we couldn't add those either.
On a personal note, I did end up having a couple of issues with the tile set that were mostly due to me not communicating. So if I were to go back, I definitely want to communicate more with the team to help, smooth out development.
We did have one moment where it was like, oh no, the map's gone. Or the prefab basically imploded and just was no longer a prefab. And that's very important, because that's the difference between editing one light and editing all the lights with just that, and then having to edit each, one of the 100 of lights individually and go through that.
You would think GitHub would allow you to revert changes like that, but it doesn't. So always when using GitHub, keep backups of what you're doing.
And use branches.
Yep.
Yes.
We've got one more question, and it's about the bookshelves. Is there any good reading material on those bookshelves?
I can jump in and go look at them. Or Ryan might be able to share a screen and get a better picture of them.
The Warden has quite the fantastical array of books that he would love to show his prisoners. So you get all kinds of books from his many bookshelves. Some of these include How This Book Fell, the book that everyone's read, The Cursed Tome of Anime.
Kind of turn your head upside down to the side. So we got The Great MLAPI War of 2021, which will document our struggles. We have Tuesday Newsday Archive, Spaceballs and Sorcerers 21st edition, the book nobody's read, What to Do When You Run Out of Titles. Oh god, my neck's hurting.
Yeah.
Oh, it's The Cursed Tome of Anime. Yeah, that's gonna be a scary read. The Green Book, and it's colored red. Nice, Ryan. That's I like that.
I had to come up with like 30 something titles for these books, and I kind of went crazy after 10.
Ryan, the pizza you made, was that a deep dish pizza?
Of course, a classic deep dish pizza.
Oh, is there pizza in the library?
I think there's pizza in the cafeteria if you want to look there.
More books? Oh, that one's so tiny I can't read that. Oh, How to Escape Prison.
Yeah.
Huh.
Hey, you might as well have it on hand.
And then finally, there's one more question. So where did you guys get the idea for the camera going through the level on the menu and the self-referencing joke signs?
I'm gonna be honest, stole that from another team. The camera movement, 100%. You'll see it in the next project. Stole from them. Slightly changed.
We did do point. I mean, it boils down to being a point runner.
It's just a point runner. That
we do projects with that in this class. So
the self-referencing joke were my idea because I had nothing to do, and I thought, hey, you know what? Why not add in like little joke like reasons that these people got arrested? So
there is a pizza right behind you. Oh,
that is a nice touch. I will give you that.
Thank you.
Pizza.
Nope, behind it.
What kind of pizza is it? Is that? I still don't know what the blacks are. They look like olives. What are they?
That's what's like burn spots, you know? Like, not
word space.
It
could be anything.
Discussion about this pizza and the coloring of it. The crust is not brown enough.
Oh, you can play last time.
No, I think actually it used to be too. It was pitch black, and I was like, that is a burnt pizza.
Yeah. Classic LV426 space pizza.
So, any other last comments from the team?
If anyone's curious, yes, the music I actually recorded myself. I actually have a synthesizer that I actually recorded with using my actual computer. I actually came up with them on the fly, as a matter of fact, on Friday.
So we'll be setting up a GoFundMe with a project goal of about $1 million. If you'd like to invest in this project, I can assure you triple your return on your investment.
We will definitely not take the money and run. Definitely.
Guys, that level of insanity was not meant for your project.
But if you want that level of insanity, we can move on to the next project.
Yeah, I think that's a good segue.
That's a good segue. Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, guys.
No problem.
Let out.
All right. So our last team. Okay. So the question for the next team is going to pose to you: what does a potato, a pineapple, and a rhino have to do with each other? You're not probably going to figure out, but it's going to be interesting, right? Anyways, with that, I give you the last for a capstone team, Rocket Jump Racing.
Hello, we are Rocket Jump Racing. I am Ben Montambo.
I am Jacob Melbourne.
I'm Evan Dyer.
I'm Cody Hunter.
And I am Crimson Wheeler.
Together we have created a monster. So why don't we go right in with it? Our initial game concept here is a first-person shooter. It is a racing game, and the kicker of it is that the movement is based on a mechanic known as rocket jumping, which came about in the early days of first-person shooters with Quake and whatnot, where essentially you take a rocket launcher or some sort of explosive device, you look down at your feet, you jump, you shoot the rocket launcher, and you just launch yourself, and it gives you a lot of momentum and speed because of the explosion. The key features of our game is that we have up to 8-player networked multiplayer using MLAPI, which, as the previous group mentioned, we also had many issues with, specifically because we started MLAPI when before it was acquired by Unity, and whereas the other group kind of upgraded theirs to the version that is used with Unity, we kept the old version of MLAPI, and that has just a severe lack of essentially just documentation for us and the fact that we were new to it was not necessarily the easiest thing to work with. That being said, we did manage to create multiple characters with different guns and stats and develop this racing game. Our game design and philosophy is we wanted to do TF2 for the basic mechanics of the game, you know, running, shooting, jumping, so on and so forth. And we wanted to emulate games like Speedrunners for the level design. We focus more on rewarding players for playing the game skillfully rather than punishing them. And we wanted it to be fun and forgiving for new players, but also fun and challenging for skillful players. So an easy to learn, hard to master kind of situation. So I will now turn this over to Cody with his contributions and challenges that he faced.
So, I was responsible for the player controller, all of the movement aspects, interfacing with the core of the game, which is the rocket jumping. We decided that we wouldn't use regular old out of the box Unity physics, so it had some of that personal touch, and that I'll get to the consequences of that in a bit. I was the technical advisor, so I worked with the team, mostly with Crimson, on just various scripting and system design kind of things. I did a little bit of modeling to help Ben. The explosion that's used in the game, I was responsible for making that. I caused a bit of chaos here and there. I made the skyboxes used in the game, and the rear view mirror that we have, which we don't have cars, by the way, but we have rear view mirrors. So one of the issues that I had was the character momentum. With making basically a custom implementation of physics, there were some drawbacks, and the big one is momentum loss. Under certain circumstances, you can just lose your momentum, and that never really got ironed out. Another one is networked animations. We do technically have animation in the game. However, it's only the local player that has animations, and they're invisible. So you can't really see them, unfortunately. And that was just that's a side effect of working with MLAPI, and just the fact that it's networked in general. And really, the last challenge was figuring out how to actually make the rear view mirror, because I initially just had a camera that's looking behind you, but that's not mirrored. So I had to actually go and figure out how to mirror it. That's pretty much it for me.
All right, we'll now turn this to Crimson.
So some of my contributions, I created the weapons, the weapon system, and had to implement an inventory system that spawned in the weapons for you over the network. This was difficult, mainly because giving ownership to those weapons and making sure that the server knew who was firing the weapons and when That took a lot of time implementing what we call possession. This possession was also implemented with the characters, and this Cody helped me out with that quite a bit, as well as Professor Wallach. Pretty much the way the weapons work is you can slap on a weapon script, tell it what projectile to spawn, and then it just requests a server spawn with the projectile, and all of the weapon behavior is actually done through the projectiles and not the weapons themselves. The reason we chose this design choice is so that the impulse effect from the projectiles wouldn't be tracked on the weapons. The weapons do have some stats that you can change, like reload speed and how many bullets are in the clip. But the real fun begins when you start shooting people with different projectiles and seeing them fly away from you. I was also the code monkey. I did a lot of programming. The only thing I really did besides the programming was the sound effects. These were all done with either my keys on my keychain or my voice. So they are very interesting, but they fit our game rather perfectly. I was also a great bad idea haver, but these turned into some pretty neat concepts along the line. My sister helped me with the yeet sound effect, which you will hear because Sasha can yeet into other people. Some of the challenges I had was creating the yeet sound effect. I just had to make it perfect, but it was also challenging because hearing yeet repeatedly kind of hurts. Another challenge that everyone soon realized when working together was I constantly forgot to either save or push my changes when trying to test things with other people. So we would try testing things and then realize it wasn't working because it hadn't actually been pushed into the game. ML API was a huge struggle, as everyone else has had with that, so they pretty much covered it all perfectly. Yeah.
And Evan.
It's me. My big contributions to this project were doing the menu UI, the level design, doing a lot of the settings, creating 108 unique hints, none of which are helpful, doing the main menu itself. I did a lot of graphic design, like I made the logo, I made some other stuff that you will soon see, including Tater Tot, which everyone immediately decided to worship. Yeah. One of the biggest challenges was learning Blender. I kind of did it as I went along. Cody was nice enough to start making the track pieces, but then had to go off and finish up some other things with the player, so I took over that. So I had to figure out how to make sure everything lines up correctly, how to actually just use the tools in Blender, because I only knew Maya before this. And it's not the hardest thing to learn with my experience, but it definitely took a little while to get used to. And the other challenge was every week I commute between two different houses with very different computer quality. Luckily, right now I'm at the one with great computer quality. But yeah.
And as a special treat, we've gone through and combed through those 108 fabulous hints written by Evan here and pulled out some of the more standout ones. And we'd like to take a moment and read some of these fever dream type situations here. Starting with Crimson, you want to do yours first?
All right, so first hint is relax. Playing this game has a very low fatality rate.
Remember, don't try this at home without an audience.
Because you see, Rocket Jump Racing is truly the Dark Souls of explosive-based racing games.
If you aren't currently playing Rocket Jump Racing, you are a foolishly fooled, foolish fool of tomfoolery foolishness.
The inspiration for this game came from a mac and cheese recipe I found online.
And this game was a work of time and love, and as we all know, time is a straight line, like a curly fry. Now we'll move on to Jake and his contributions to the game.
All right, so my main contributions were working on the race logic. So basically all the back-end programming for how the race works, which primarily includes tracking the players' positions around the racetrack itself, which I accomplished via a node system, where there were individual nodes placed around the track, and they would track the player as they went around the track. Tracking the players' positions amongst the players themselves, so comparing their position on the track and determining what place in the race they were. And things like the end game system, so tracking players' laps, figuring out what lap they are on, and if they finish the race, ending the race and displaying the final positions. I also did work with the server hosting and joining, so hosting a server, setting that up, creating a lobby, and then for the clients, connecting to that server and joining their lobby, which also means I created the lobby system, which both the lobby system and the race logic required a lot of networking, which required a lot of using ML API, which I'll get to in the challenges. I also made the original HUD UI design, which stayed relatively faithful throughout the development. There were some tweaks made by the other developers, so it's a little different than how it originally started. But yeah, I also did the character select logic, or at least part of it. I mainly did the character select logic for the main menu. So picking which character you want and then storing that data and passing it through to the actual race. So you could have the correct character applied to you when you spawned in. And I was also the official food eater of the group, which mainly included chicken nuggets and waffles and pancakes. So for my challenges, the biggest challenge, honestly, was just dealing with ML API. As mentioned before, we used an older version, so it was before it was integrated with Unity, which there was just very, very little documentation on how it worked. There weren't even that many like forum posts or anything asking questions about it, so it was a lot of trial and error. It was a lot of working in the dark and just kind of throwing things at the wall until something sticked, which thankfully something stuck eventually, because the race system and lobby system eventually were created. And then creating and wiring up the race and lobby system, that kind of is connected to working with ML API and networking and stuff. And then there are some external challenges, such as losing power every other week because I live in the middle of the woods in New England. And so whenever there's a slight gust of wind, a tree falls down and knocks down my power lines. And I also have probably a lot of radiation in my system from frequent microwave usage from the chicken nuggets.
How's your third arm treating you, by the way?
I've started to be able to move it. It's getting the muscles are growing in.
Oh, that's good at least.
Yeah.
All right, and now we move on to me, and you may notice that I have an extra hint here, because we also made our own self-referential hints, and I'd love to read mine, because around me there is an aura of stupid, just so powerful it creates its own gravity well. and it pulls in other developers. And with nothing left to do, they made a game, and I think we called it Rocket Jump Racing or something stupid like that. I was what I like to call project dad for this, as well as taskmaster. I basically handled a lot of the organization and project management for our group and made sure everyone did what they needed to do and did it in a timely fashion. I was also the lead character and weapons modeler for our team. And I did take quite a bit of input from my teammates on some of them too, which you'll see just how fun each of our characters are. I basically was the lead server manager. It was my job to basically make sure the server was up and running, make sure people were connecting to it fine, so on and so forth. And I also functioned as a backup programmer and just testing dummy that someone who wanted to test something could basically grab and say, hey, I need you to test this with me, so on and so forth. Some of the challenges that I faced personally was I learned Blender for the first time working on this project. And Blender is a great program. It's a little hard to get into, but it's really good for what it does. Also just general challenges of like organizing and task management, more like, I guess, bureaucratic type challenges and whatnot. Dealing with the fact that MLAPI had incomplete documentation, which made it difficult for me to connect to like an outside server, which for us was using Amazon Web Services, and dealing with the limitations that the web services provide. And with that, I think it's ad time here. So we have some ads in our game. We have Cancer for all your radioactive tin can needs. We have Product X Placement for when you have a product and don't know where to put it, you can call us. We have Chicken Nuggets for the soul. You sold your soul to the devil, became a lawyer? Not to worry. Chicken Nuggets for the soul. Get your soul back in no time. And of course, our sponsor message here. The sponsor. Sponsoring the sponsors of games for like a long time. Like enough to be very respectable. We just wanted to throw these in because we do have our little advertisement boards in game. But you can't quite make out some of them. So we figured we'd throw the best ones in here. And now it's tater time, I believe, friends. So excuse us for a moment while we transition to our game.
It's hard to read the signs when you're going Mach 5.
Yeah, that's also kind of a difficulty, really. All right, and we will change windows here to Rocket Jump Racing. All right. Yeah, so real quick here, while I'm pretty sure Wallach is setting things up on his end. All right, cool. I'll be going over our menu, our main menu, with you guys, and then we'll be swapping to Jake for our gameplay because Jake is by far the best one out of all of us at this game.
You're gonna give me performance anxiety.
Yeah, well, you know, it's time to go, buddy. So here's our main menu. You'll notice that there's some background music and whatnot. We'll start with the credits. Here we have all the accreditations for everyone who's worked on this project. And a fun little thing that we've done. I'll actually go back into settings real quick and lower the music volume a little bit. So that way you can hear this. But here we got me. I did character models, character butts, and I was the team dad. And if you click on our names, we get our own yeet sound effects. So Evan, main menu, the most random of things, character select, lots of mistakes in level design. Yeet. Cody actually functioning as an adult for the most part. Also getting his yeet. Crimson, who is the progenitor of the yeet for this project. And that is the progenitor of the yeets. Give it one more. And Jacob here. We also have Zachary Cabral, who is a friend of Evan's, and he did a lot of the music and stuff for us. So thank you again, Zachary. He also gets his own yeet. And then we have Redacted here. I am not allowed to say this person's name, but you can figure out who it is. They were redacted of their own volition. And now we go into our settings here, which very basic settings, mouse sensitivity, inverting things, volume settings. We also have it so you can pan through all 108 different hints here if you so wish. And after presentations and whatnot, if there is a high demand for it, I will sit here and read through all 108. God, I hope not, though, because that's going to hurt my voice after a while. And that's pretty much it for the menu. So we're gonna hop into a game. Jake, are you ready?
I am very ready.
All right, so we'll go ahead and join Jake's server. And we have our character selects here. We can pick the Dictator, aka Richard Tater, the former leader of the Grand Patatian Army, and the loser of the Patatian Panaplian Wars. His weapon is the Spud Gun. His sub-weapon is basically a sawed-off shotgun. And he has an average weight or so. We could pick Chappie, who is a representative of the Panaplian hive mind, and the heavyweight champ, as he likes to be called. His primary weapon is the blunderbuss. His sub-weapon is a C4 that he can throw out and then detonate. And he also has an average weight. And then we got Sasha, our favorite intergalactic Russian rhinoceros, who is currently hiding from intergalactic space poachers here in Rocket Jump Racing. Their weapon is a pistol called the Loud Grasshopper. Their sub-weapon is basically a charge attack, for the most part, that you can run into people with and basically knock them back and whatnot. And Sasha has a pretty heavy weight. So I'll be picking Sasha. And enter in a screen name, submit. Here's our quick loading screen. Oh, and perfect. We have one of everyone here.
And I'm going to jump to Jake for our gameplay now.
Yes. Okay. And Jake, I believe whenever you're ready, we can start.
Yeah, I will. Well, I'll stay at the finish line for a second so we can get a beautiful
Good
view
look
of
of
everyone's
everyone.
character models.
Hello!
We got Sasha there.
Uh-huh.
We got
Chappie.
Dictator there. I am
Yeah.
playing as Chappie with my akimbo revolver shotguns. And then there's another Chappie.
I'm also Chappie.
Hello!
with his C4.
Yeah, I also have this brick.
You want to throw that down?
And
Blow us up.
yeah. So you can throw that down. Boom.
With the amazing sound effects.
Yep. And real quick, hey Jake, where are you?
I'm right here.
Yeah. All right.
Wait. Oh, you're the Sasha. Hold on. I'm right here.
Yes. Hello. You ready to go flying, buddy?
Yes.
Well, you got hit from behind, but
I got hit by two Sashas at once.
now you got hit by one. Now you're getting hit by another.
Thanks
All
for giving
right.
me the
And with
boost.
that, I think it's time we start this race. So, woo! Off we go, friends.
As you can see, the rearview mirror is very necessary in knowing where you're going.
Yep.
That's what I added it for.
Yeah, it does make this quite a bit nicer to see kind of where you're going. So, this game is basically 3 laps. There is position tracking to figure out positions and whatnot. You'll notice that in the bottom left is basically just weapons, or not weapons, a magazine size and whatnot. Over in the right, you can see our speedometer that we have with some very, very well done speed markers, such as
Constantly at the speed of light.
yeah. There's are you even moving, cruising, halfway there, oh boy, and the speed of light, I think. But yeah.
Damn, someone is right behind me.
Probably Evan,
He's
because
in
I
second.
think next to you, Evan is the best.
He just passed me.
It was me for a minute, and then
Oh.
I started slamming into corners.
Yeah, that's one of the interesting things about rocket jump racing is that all of the walls are made of momentum-eating materials, and as I just get lapped because I can't quarter to save my life.
Oh, it's Sasha. Who's playing as the other Sasha?
That's me. I suck at this game. I'm
So
sorry.
I'm lapping you.
Yeah. But yeah, Sasha is very not good at corners per se. But on a straightaway, Sasha can't be beat. Very much like the rhinoceros that Sasha is, if I do say so myself. Because you just go fucking frickin' zooping. Oop, sorry. Oh, frickin'. So Jake's probably gonna finish this in short fashion here.
I'm almost on the third lap.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me because again, you are by far the best at this.
I don't know. Evan passed me for a little bit there.
That is true.
I was in second for a little bit there.
And Cody is keeping up, which is also pretty nice.
I am, but like every single corner, I'm just slamming.
Yeah. All right, and there we go. So Jacob here is one. Evan is second, Crimson in third, and then Cody and we participated. And then once the game is over, we
participation awards.
Yeah, and then once the game is over, we just once the game is over, we just simply go back to the main menu. But that's pretty much it for our game, I do believe. So welcome questions and comments here.
Yeah, mostly comments and forms of questions. Someone asked how many drugs were involved with this project. Absolutely none. This is unfortunately I have to step in as program coordinator to be like, yeah, no, you guys weren't.
Professor Wallach, you're muted.
There we go.
Yeah, that it helps to hear.
Yeah, you guys could hear me. It went over the. Anyways, there's no drugs involved in this project. I have to say, NHTI is a dry campus. There's no. Yeah. So.
Yeah, no, this is just our own pure liquid stupid.
Which might be more terrifying.
Yes.
Much more potent.
A question is, do they have experience with other networking solutions? And the answer is no. So the other common network solution would be like Mirror, would be Photon. There's the ACS networking solution. The place where MLPA fits in is that this is going to be Unity's game object technology base solution for networking. And this is the only thing they worked with this past year in terms of networking.
I mean, I've done my own networking solution, but that's about it.
The audio was a little loud, a little low, Tucker. So it may not you may not have been able to hear it well.
Yeah, that's kind of on our end because audio balancing is quite difficult actually. Alright. Let's see. Here's a good question because I'm looking at the stream here. For the network programmers. Oh wait, no, that's the one that you just read. I'm again liquid stupid.
The last one was: is there any more characters that you would add if you had more time?
So,
Yes.
we had one more, and his name was Figgins, and he was going to be the, stereotypical human in space sort of thing. But Figgins had to be cut for two reasons. One was time, mainly, and two is we planned to have it so Figgins could reflect projectiles back at people. Because you can shoot stuff at others and they get affected by the explosion and whatnot. Figgins was going to reflect those back, so you couldn't necessarily hit Figgins. Granted, it would have a lengthy cooldown between the reflections and whatnot, but that's much more difficult to implement than you'd think.
Any last comments from the team on the project?
There's one more question here. Were there complications with the modeling and physics that prevented the C4 from actually being held? It's not so much complications with the modeling and physics, it's more just time was the big issue. So that's why a lot of the character models and stuff don't look like they're necessarily holding their weapons. Because they are holding them, it's just time crunches.
So the way that weapons are held in this game is with the face, actually.
Yeah, which is just something we had to do.
All right. Again, any last comments from the team?
Again, I stated that if there was demand, I would read through all 108 hints that Evan wrote because they are too good to not see the light of day.
That will not be on this stream, unfortunately.
No, sadly it will not. But yeah. No, other than that, I don't have any.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you for your work.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, audience.
Yeah.
Yes, thank all of you.
All right. So with that, bounce channel. So with that, I mean, I want to give a round of applause to all of the capstone teams. This was my senior class this year. Both teams worked their behinds off dealing with a new technology. I mean, again, they started with MLPI before Unity basically bought the project and hired the creator to continue working as part of the Unity team. It is now so they started working on it before it was officially a Unity product or part of the Unity packages. It has just been released in its first release under Unity's name with the current latest version of the engine. There's a lot of work to be done on it. It's. I think there was a question about like what after using it. It's in a state where it is not yet quite ready for primetime production, but it's getting there. It's getting closer. It's in. I know our students really rack their heads around dealing with it, and it just it was just that's the state of a project like that where it was primarily just a single individual doing the majority of the work. So it really comes down to there was just like quirks and holes and places where the documentation wasn't necessarily expressive or detailed enough to be truly informative in some cases, but they got through it, and you can see where they are today, with the projects that they have. Both have systems that are, crazy different gameplay possibilities in both. So for that, I'm gonna give them a round of applause. That this is a lot. Multiplayer games are complex because they are really that complex. With that said, I want to reiterate. I'm Professor Wallach. I'm the program coordinator of the AGGP program here at NHTI. With that said, you just saw the work of basically my graduating students. You saw the work of the students that are coming up over the next year. We do this, this is our show at games. We do this every year. We've been doing this since I've been here 14 years. Again, I want to thank you for all coming and to. I want to thank you for all coming and watching this presentation. With that, I'll give you a good afternoon or good day, wherever time it is where you're at. Thank you.